As we all know, injuries are often a part of sport, and we hope they don't happen on the field of play. However, you can truly never predict an accident, especially off the field of play.
Our guest today, Parker Byrd, was involved in a life-threatening boating accident before his freshman season at East Carolina University, where he ended up losing his leg at the young age of 18 years old, right before embarking on his dream of playing Division I college baseball.
The true strength of his faith and support of his family and friends played a key role in his miraculous comeback. Now, Parker's life has new meaning and purpose beyond just being a student athlete. Let's hear the details of his truly inspirational story now. All right, we're here, Sport Fuels Life. We've got another wonderful podcast. This is a little bit different, a little bit more of a recent motivational story. Parker Byrd is coming to us from ECU's baseball team. He is battling some adversity that most people will never experience in their life. And let's go ahead and share a little bit of the story, the backstory from how you are currently playing your first baseball season and what kind of happened before that was allowed.
Yeah, so like you said, my name is Parker. I'm from a little place called Laurinburg, North Carolina, which is about 2.5 hours from Greenville. It's like very southeastern part of the state. So I always grew up a Pirate fan. I committed to East Carolina in ninth grade as soon as they offered, just because I wanted to come here all my life. So after that, I came to summer school in 2022, just because the freshman baseball players have to come and get acclimated to the new environment, new program, and just new everything. And so we're here for summer school, and we were having a great summer. And a new recruit kind of came in midway through, and he told us, he was like, "Hey, my family has this river house that's like 40 minutes from here. We should go down there one weekend." And we're like, "All right, sounds fun." Kind of just blew him off the rest of the summer until the very last weekend, and he brought it back up. We're like, "All right, we can go down there. We'll have a good time," like he says. So we went that Friday, and everything went great. And we went out tubing, went ate, and had a great time. Well, that Saturday, I was supposed to take one of the guys back to Greenville because he was supposed to help an elderly couple move some furniture. And he got a text that morning saying, "Miles, thanks for helping or volunteering, but we don't really need your help anymore." So the guys were like, "Hey, let's just go back on the tube. We had a great time yesterday. Let's just do it again." So they convinced us pretty easily, and we had lunch and got ready to go back on the tube. Well, the first ride went great. Me and a guy named Dixon hopped on the tube first. First ride went smooth and fell off and got back on just because we had a great time the first time. And the second ride, the driver was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go a little bit more crazier, try to get you guys thrown off a little bit faster," since that last ride was like 20 minutes long. So, all right, sounds good. And so me and Dixon ended up falling off and both hit the water really hard. Well, we decided to go back to the boat just because how banged up we were just from the water. And I was ahead of Dixon as we were swimming towards the boat, and I was kind of using the rope from the tube to help guide myself back in. And as I got within 10 yards or so from the boat, the driver put the boat in reverse or got knocked into reverse somehow, and basically ended up sucking me under the boat. And the propeller hit both of my legs and my left hand as well. And from then, the guy I was supposed to take back home, his name's Miles. He jumped in immediately just because he knew how urgent it was to get me help, because he had a friend back home in Florida die of a boating accident in a very similar way. So he jumped in immediately, helped me back onto the boat, and he told the guys to take off the shirts, and they were tying tourniquets around my legs as they were trying to wave down other boats. And the first boat stopped, and it was like, they addressed the situation, and they said, basically, "We can't help because we have kids on the boat and we don't want to expose them to the scene, but here's a first aid kit." And they were like, "This is a little bit more than just a Band-Aid." So they continued to wave down other boats, and the second boat stopped. And on that boat was two couples. And the only reason they're going back in that day was because one of the couples had gotten into an argument. It was like, "Hey, can you just take me back to the marina? I'm sick of him. This is call it quits for today." So on their way back in, they saw us and they stopped. And as they stopped our boat, the people on my boat addressed the situation, and they agreed to help. And as they were getting me transported that boat, the lady was talking me through what she was doing, and she ended up being a nurse. So she tied more tourniquets around my legs with rope and did everything she could to just stabilize me at that time. So that boat transported me to the marina because our boat wasn't able to move due to the rope being caught in the propeller. So that boat transported me to the marina where there was an ambulance waiting on me. And the ambulance took me to Washington Hospital, which was like 10 or 15 minutes away, which there was an helicopter waiting to airlift me to ECU Health here in Greenville immediately. So after that, I was here for 4 weeks in the hospital and had a total of 22 surgeries in 45 days. So, yeah.
Wow. That is a lot of surgeries
Yeah.
and that number of days. And you mentioned a couple points, like you almost ended up going back a day earlier, and then just the luck of the nurse being on the boat.
Mhm.
And it just made me wonder, do you believe that any fate played any role in what
Yeah.
happened?
Definitely. I mean, I think God was there the whole time because I mean, there's a lot of God moments in the whole thing from Miles Curley, friend sadly dying in an accident, so he knew everything to do in the boating situation. Miles Curley being there really because he wasn't even supposed to come down that Friday neither because he was supposed to come back Saturday and he was like, I don't want to hinder you guys. I don't want y'all to like stop having fun because I have to come back. And so I was like, no, dude, I'll take you back. I don't really care to be there 2 days. So I ended up convincing him to go down. And then my parents were back home in Laurinburg, which I said was 2.5 hours away. They got a call basically saying that I was dying for my ex-girlfriend. So they're on the way. They ended up blowing out a tire and my mom's yelling at my dad, like, there's no tire shops available on a 4 p.m. on Saturday. And my mom looked it up, and 400 feet from where they were was a tire shop that was ran by a bunch of Hispanics that knew no English. My parents know no Spanish at all. But they had one tire in the whole shop that fit my dad's truck. So got them back on the road in 5 minutes. The propeller stopping 1 millimeter from my sciatic nerve, which is the main nerve that goes down your leg. And if it would have hit that, I would have lost my entire leg and honestly probably would have bled out on the scene and died. So I mean, just stuff like that. That couple being there, that lady being a nurse, the best doctors in the state of North Carolina and arguably on the whole East Coast, being at the hospital on call once I got there. And they were in the trauma unit as well. So a lot of God moments, and he really had a hand on everything.
Well, I'm just so impressed with your mentality and how positive you are able to speak about this scenario. And so let's go into the 20 surgeries is what you said in
So yes,
45 days. Yeah.
22.
So what was that like having all those surgeries?
Yeah, it was definitely confusing and very foggy for me, just because I
Yeah.
was so drugged up and going through the whole process, really. But it was up and down because at first, like I said, they didn't know where the sciatic nerve was at first. The first 2 or 3 surgeries, they were just trying to get bleeding to stop, and then they finally found the sciatic nerve and told my parents like, "Hey, everything's intact." That basically his legs are going to heal up, and with some extensive rehab, he's going to get back to where he was on the field. And so we had a lot of hope there for surgery 4 through 8, 9. And then on August, my accident happened on July 23rd. And on August 2nd, my right foot became very pale and cold. And I wasn't able to move it this whole time, but they said it was just due to severe swelling and an initial accident, and that movement would come back. But I was never able to move it. It became really pale and cold. And my dad's a doctor and my mom's a nurse. So them both having a medical background, they kind of knew exactly what it meant. And so on August 4th, they came into my room and said I had either 2 options. A, I can continue the drip I was on and the medicine would uh, not really work and the infection would spread to my kidneys and my lungs and I would basically end up dying. Or option B, I can just amputate my right lower extremity. So I was just kind of, hey, let's cut it off and keep moving. So after that, it was really just a bunch of washout surgeries, just trying to get that infection out. And then I was finally able to close up everything. And then the healing process after that was even more extensive just because with that, your leg has to heal before you could even get fitted for the prosthetic. So it was definitely a lot of ups and downs with, and then after my amputation, there was probably 2 or 3 surgeries there where my knee was completely dead. And within the prosthetic world, knee is huge. It's key to a lot of movements, because without it, you'd have to use your hip a lot more, and you wouldn't have that knee joint to do a lot of stability stuff. So my knee was dead. The doctors said basically, hey, his knee's dead. We're gonna have to amputate above his knee. And he's like, we'll do that, and 3 more surgeries. And so they going back in, second surgery after that, same thing, knee was dead. The next surgery after that was a different doctor, came back, told my parents my knee was dead. Well, the surgery before the amputation was scheduled, they came back after my surgery, was like, hey, there's a trickle of blood, but we're just gonna hold off on cutting, but don't get your hopes up because it's just a little bit. Well, they went back in the next day just to see how everything was, and my knee was completely back to normal, and it was bleeding again, and it was just normal. And they were like, "Hey, we're not gonna cut anything off. He's gonna be able to have a knee joint, it looks like." And so ever since then, my knee's been pretty healed up. So it was definitely a lot of ups and downs and a lot of scary moments, but God had a plan for it all.
Unreal, unreal. So again, another moment right there just before they were going to amputate. You got a little trickle, a little bit of hope, and then the next
Right.
day it's back to full go. So that's incredible. Where was the initial cut, if you don't mind me asking, on the lower leg, or what caused the infection on the lower part below the knee? Because the sciatic nerve can run all the way up and down the leg, but usually it's most common up in the upper part of the leg. That
Yeah, so it hit both of my legs right by my thighs, on my thighs, and then it did get my calf a little bit on my right side. But it was really, the infection was basically because of how dirty the water was. So just with the river water or lake water, it's just so nasty, and you don't really realize that until you have an open wound like that. And so it was just a lot of yeast infections, just because of how much medicine I was on, and then a lot of nasty water in my leg. So that created a lot of infection, and so they had me on some medicine for that, and then it basically ended up causing my foot to go dead.
Gotcha. So the cut was way high, but then the
Yeah,
infection went
yeah.
all the way
So
down the foot.
yeah, my right leg was, the cut was up and down. It really hit all of it, and then my left leg was really just up, but that they had to amputate my right leg.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, that's incredible to
Mhm.
just think about going through that many surgeries and then be able to potentially lose a life, let alone a limb. Making sure that the limb is the one that goes, and we're happy
Yeah.
to have you here. And then to keep the knee. So let's talk about the joint. You mentioned that a little bit. How pivotal is the knee joint when it comes to the idea of coming back to athletics?
Yeah. So whenever they told me that, with the first time they told us that the knee was going to have to be cut off, my dad, actually woke up in my room that time, which was very rare because I'd be in the post-op every other time. And the first question I would ask my parents was, how'd it go? Because it's surgery. And so my mom was like, they're going to have to amputate above your knee. I was like, okay, they've already cut off my leg. There's not much more that's going to affect me. And my dad's like, well, Parker, do you know what this means? And I was like, no, sir, I don't. And I was like, they're just going to have to amputate my knee. And he's like, no, it means you'll never be able to play baseball again. And I just broke down in that moment because, I mean, baseball is my life. It's always been my life. And so after that, and they were finally able to, I guess, not cut above my knee with hyperbaric oxygen. That was really a big part of that, and prayer. But they figured out that, and then once I got my prosthetic, I realized how pivotal a knee really is in the prosthetic world. Just because without that knee, you have to use your hip for a lot, and running is really hard without without a knee. And the prosthetics they make just for walking, I have a robot knee that you have to charge at night, and with a BK, which is below the knee, it's not as advanced, and it's a lot uh, able to move more. So I didn't realize that at the time, but now I'm very blessed to have a knee.
Yeah, and so tell us about the comeback to actually play baseball. So after surgery, you realized you're going to be lucky enough to have that knee, and so you wanted to keep playing baseball. And
Right.
so how did you come to making it all the way back to playing at the D1 college level?
Yeah, so I guess right after I got a hospital, we put a plan together just to get back onto the field. We put the right PTs, right teammates, right coaching staff, which luckily I was already at East Carolina to have those teammates and coaches. But just kind of cut everybody out that didn't believe in the same plan we did. And me and my dad went to cages from really early on. So I was still in a wheelchair whenever I started going back to the cages, and I'd sit there and track the velocity off of the machine. And then I was finally able to get a walker, and wound vacs were still on my legs, but I started doing one-hand drills on a little shower stool. And then I was able to get crutches that I'd stand up on the crutch and hit and still do one-handed drills. And then I was able to get my first prosthetic, which didn't fit very well. And then I was finally able to stand up, but I wasn't very weight bearing on my leg, and I wasn't using my lower half at all. It was just kind of standing up and swinging. And then I got a grant from the Challenge Athletes Foundation, which was key to my recovery because they provided me with a grant for a leg that is more useful for baseball. It has more, I guess, range of motion, and it really just, I guess, exponentially grew my rehab just because that fit well. I was able to run, I was able to do lateral movement, and I was able to change my swing to where I could actually use my legs. And now with just some accommodations, I have the same amount of power as I did before. So I guess it was just a very long process and a lot of small wins to get back onto the field. But I mean, it was fun just getting a lot of uh, new wins and new challenges to overcome. Was really just a process to me, and I've always loved challenges, and just it's just an ultimate challenge to me.
Yeah, the challenge is always there in athletics, but you faced an immense number so quickly. What was the support like, I guess, from East Carolina and the idea of getting you back? And then what was it like experiencing some of the challenges that come with the lows that come with not being able to, one, have a leg, two, run around, three, play like normal. And then how did you get yourself to stay positive? Because you seem, again, so incredibly positive through this entire scenario.
Yeah, ECU was great. They were phenomenal from the get go. Coach Godwin was the first person, which is our head coach. He was the first person at the hospital. The guys on the boat called him, told him what happened, and he actually arrived at the hospital before they did. So he's really been there since day one. And then my teammates were on the boat with me, and they have a different level of appreciation and respect, and they had believed in me the whole time, just because they knew that I'd work hard and my dream was to get back. So they've been nothing but supportive and shown their love the whole way. And really, just community of Greenville and Pirate Nation has been really key to my recovery, because I tell people all the time, like, recovery was 90% mental and the other 10% was the physical part. So with the mental side, I was lucky enough to have a firm foundation with my family, with our relationship with Christ, and just putting all the trust in him. And I think that's kind of where the positive attitude came from, and made those days where I could easily been down a lot easier, just because they had always been there. My family moved from Laurinburg up to Greenville after my accident, just because they knew I needed the support. And my sisters, who are 18 now and about to turn 12, they really just changed their whole entire life, just up and moved. And so I'm very thankful for them. And just having a support system here has really been key to not have those bad days. And of course, I had a couple here and there, but it was really not a lot, just because of how strong they were with the support and ECU as well.
Well, it sounds like you have an awesome support group around you, and that is not only just it is truly just helps get you back, because you just need some support when you're getting through something like that. I just cannot even fathom what you've gone through. And I just really hope that a lot of people get to hear your story, because it truly is so inspiring. So
Yeah.
what would you say, and again, you have turned it into something so positive. That's what I love, and that's why I hope so many people get to hear this story. So what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned from this?
Mm. I would say that God always has a plan, because my plan was to come to East Carolina and be the starting shortstop my freshman year. And I mean, everything was lined up for me. The starting shortstop the year before had just gotten drafted right before my accident. And that my plan was not as good as his. And his plan was for me to go through those challenges, and that it didn't happen to me, but it also just happened for me. And I just tell people that all the time, that his will is a lot better than ours, and his timing is always the right time. Because, like I said, my timing wasn't right, and I wouldn't have had nearly the amount of impact I've had on people today, and I wouldn't be able to sit here and share my story if it wasn't for his timing. So I really just trust in the Lord and that His time is right.
Going towards the I guess more athletic satisfaction of accomplishing your goal of being on that D1 team and making the ability to play after that challenge. Talk us through the emotions that you felt when you knew, because the season's just getting started. You had a little fall ball, but the season really is just getting started right now. And
Right.
you're on the field, you're playing, you're hitting. Talk us through a little bit about that and what that means to you, and how some games have gone.
Yeah, so I've gotten two at bats now. And I mean, it's great to be back. Just because sitting there for a year and a half, just waiting for that moment, and just being back and having that feeling of, I guess, that adrenaline rush that all athletes get in their sport is, I mean, I think it's key to my recovery, just because it makes me look forward to something, and all the hard work that you put in, finally getting shown into light and telling people like, hey, I made it and I'm back, and I'm not just here just to be back, but I actually want to contribute to the team, which I think is a key thing. I think some people think that I just came back just because just, hey, I'm Division I player with a prosthetic leg, but I actually want to contribute to the team and get meaningful pinch hit roles. And I think that's what everybody knows, is that on the team, at least, that uh, they believe in me, and they know when I'm up there, I'm gonna compete, and that I'm gonna put up in a bat that's actually meaningful. So I mean, it means the world just to be back out there and playing with my brothers and my teammates.
That is so cool and truly so inspiring. Um, and I'm sure that this will also really help you face future challenges if anything were to come up. And you can just tell that you truly love baseball so much, and you are still very young in your career here at ECU. Do you think that baseball will continue to be a part of your life, maybe when you're done playing for college?
Mm, I would say that after my accident, I guess my attention to life has definitely changed a lot, because I mean, before I lived strictly for baseball. That was literally my life. I would wake up and the first thing I think about is baseball. But I think my accident put my life in perspective a little bit. And but I mean, as long as baseball is in my life, I'll let it be and ride that wave. But making it to next level isn't as big as it was before. And if it happens, it happens. But if not, I just want to do public speaking and be in the Paralympics, and maybe be a pole vaulter. Who knows? But but yeah. So we'll ride the wave of it. But I know for the next 3 years after this year, I'll definitely be playing baseball. But after college, public speaking, Paralympics, and whatever happens in life.
Yeah, well, Parker, thanks again for sharing your story. This is it's incredible and motivational to us as podcast hosts and coaches and athletes ourselves. But we'll be cheering you on. We're definitely fans of you and ECU baseball, knowing that your story has been fulfilled with so much support, and we love the family that comes from athletics. We love the podcast and sharing those stories, and this is another amazing example. So from your teammates to your coaches to your family, it's an incredible story of how you have such a positive light to share to the rest of the world, and we're excited to share that with our listeners here. So
Well, thank you guys so much for having me on.
Yes. Where would our listeners be able to follow you in your journey if they want to learn a little bit more about
Yeah.
you or keep up with you?
My Instagram is Parker Byrd, BYRD, and there's a D at the end. So Parker Byrd with two D's. And my Twitter, or X now, is Parker Byrd 11. So that I'll share my stories on there, and I actually have a website up now too. It's www.parkerbird16.com. And there's just a lot of like guest speaking stuff. And if you ever want me like come speak on there, that you can fill out forms on there. And then I hope to have a foundation up soon that would also be posted on that website and just help kids or people get back into the game of life.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and we'll
course.
definitely be keeping up with you and cheering you on.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much.
All right.
All right, Parker, have a great one.
All right, you as well.
Hey guys, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. If you liked this episode, then please go ahead, subscribe, like, or comment. This helps us grow more than you know, so we can keep making more content like this.
Or you can visit us on sportfuelslife.com and register to become a member for free, so you never miss another podcast episode. Thanks for listening.
Do it, you won't regret it.